Welcome to the Back to the Good Life podcast. My name's Nikki.
And my name's Mr. G.
And today we are going to be talking about what it means to be self-sufficient, what self-sufficiency means to us, and a goal to be self-sufficient, and how we're trying to work towards being more self-sufficient and self-reliant in our tiny little garden and tiny little house that we have, and hopefully what our plans are for the future as well. So, Mr. G, what does self-sufficiency mean to you?
Well, I'd like to believe that self-sufficiency for us would be being able to provide as much as possible of our own goods, so that we can kind of take a step back from mainstream shops, I suppose, would be the right thing. It's also quite an important thing, I think. It makes you feel a little bit more independent from the whole system of going out grocery shopping. Being able to pull it out of your own garden is going to be a lot nicer. And whether that's food or power related as well, even, I think that's going to be an important thing along the lines.
Yeah, I mean, we've just gone through a massive energy crisis, which is probably not finished yet.
No, I know people have suffered, and unfortunately, I think that we're going to feel it a little longer than we have at the moment.
It would be nice to see if we could. I don't know what our options are here, just because of the angle of our roofs, but it would be really nice to see if we could kind of put some renewable energy sources in, or at least try and be as not energy self-sufficient, because we're never going to be energy self-sufficient here, or ever, I don't think, but at the same score of trying to put something in where we kind of minimise the energy that we use, so that we've got like backup options as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, technologies are moving on quite rapidly in that sort of area, so you never know. A few years down the line, we might find that we're able to do that with a lot more ease than there is at the moment. So, I mean,
hopefully that's going to age well. Otherwise we'll end up in the dark ages in a few years' time, and we'll be like, well, that didn't age well.
But and I'll put that question to you as well. What's your thoughts of self-sufficiency?
Well, I grew up watching The Good Life. Well, I'll reiterate that. I didn't grow up watching The Good Life because it was on well before I was born. But I grew up watching reruns of The Good Life, which is why we named the channel Back to the Good Life.
Yes.
Because, in honour of Tom and Barbara. And I loved the way they took what they had and just ran with it, and they put as much as possible into being as self-reliant as possible. I think for me, self-sufficiency actually means more being self-reliant as much as you possibly can do. I think we've got to be realistic. There's no way that we can be fully self-sufficient. So, for example, like, I can't make my own broadband, and I really need Wi-Fi.
That'd be quite impressive.
In my life. Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to reach these lovely people.
Exactly. We wouldn't be able to do this every week that we're enjoying so much. But so there's some realistic things. But then there's that kind of thing of, okay, so I know that I can't make my own Wi-Fi or make my own broadband. So I've got to be able to make the money to pay for that. How am I going to make the money to pay for it? Well, I could go out to work and have a job like I've got at the moment, like we've both got at the moment. Or I could find a way of working for myself. So I'm then reliant on myself to pay the thing that I can't actually deal with.
Yes.
So that's kind of how I think about it. And it's like, I think it's all in there. So it's things like, we look at our shopping bill at the moment and we think, right, okay, so we get 3 pints of milk a week. Okay, is there any way that we could do that ourselves? Well, here, no.
No.
But if we moved to somewhere with some more land and more space, then we could possibly think about looking at rearing goats. I think a cow might be a little bit more tricky. I don't know anything about cows at all. Which is my own bad.
They are quite a big beast.
Rather large and really cute as well. But that's beside the point. But we could raise our own goats and hopefully have then goat milk, and that's one thing that we could be slightly more self-reliant. Of course, how do you house the goat, feed the goat, that kind of thing. Something that it's almost like when you solve one problem, another 3 problems come in its way.
We can then focus on those at that point in time. I mean, it's definitely going to be a bit of a challenge.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
As you say, there's no way of being able to wipe out needs that we can't physically overcome ourselves. So there's always going to be a sense of being slightly reliant on the external, but as you say, if we can make it as minimal as possible.
Yeah, definitely. There's also a case of looking at pretty much everything you do and going, right, how can I do that myself? How can I make it myself? Can I make it myself? Like, well, we talk about our food. Like, the food that we eat, we rarely ever eat processed stuff.
Yeah.
All right, we eat cheese, but we don't eat like rubbish cheese. We eat very nice cheese, but it's not kind of like, we're not reliant on jarred sauces or microwave meals and things like that. So knowing how to cook a meal for yourself, that's a form of self-reliance. Yeah, you might not have been able to grow all the vegetables or, raise the animals and everything that we're eating, but knowing how to put it together into something that's edible and tasty and maybe even medicinal, because that's another side of being self-sufficient.
Yes, indeed.
It hopefully is going to make a big difference. And I think something like that we can do here.
It's a small step to the bigger picture anyway, isn't it?
One small step for man and woman.
One smaller step into the garden.
Our garden is a small step, to be honest. There's only a few small steps and then you're out of the garden, so it's only a bit diddy. But no, it's good. So when it comes to, for example, our garden and hopefully our future garden, what crops and things like that do you think that we should focus on trying to be self-sufficient in? Because I think possibly we're never going to be self-sufficient in all of the vegetables that we eat.
No.
But if we could try and be as self-sufficient as possible in one of them.
Well, I think if we can get ourselves crops that are a lot quicker in growth, I mean, all climate dependent as well. I mean, you get too much rain, you're going to end up with massive issues of...
And where we want to move to, there's going to be a lot of rain.
Yeah. But fast-growing crops I think is probably a good idea, because it means that we're going to have a higher turnover, and it means that we're able to keep being as self-sufficient as possible, because otherwise we'll be waiting for crops that are just going. Potatoes are quite a quick turnover if you plant them properly. Just as an example, really.
Do you want to aim to be self-sufficient in potatoes?
We go through quite a bit.
We do go through quite a bit. I like potatoes. I'd like us to aim to be self-sufficient in peas. There is a problem with that, though.
That means that you will be self-sufficient in peas, not me, darling.
Well, no, the problem is we're going to actually have to plan for them to come off of the plant and into something that isn't my belly. Because normally they just come straight off the plant into my belly.
I don't think I saw one pea last year.
You saw them, you just didn't eat them.
Well.
I did give you the option. I ate them all. And I liked them. But in all honesty, they're quite a fast, once they get going, they're quite a fast crop.
They are, yeah.
And I'm trying to do succession planting this year. So there's like 200 and something pea plants I'm planning to plant like throughout the year. So hopefully try and
keep the rotation going, yes.
I don't think it's going to work, but still, we can hope.
That's a lot of peas.
I really like peas.
Any excuse.
but it'd be like garlic. Like the first time ever we're growing garlic at the moment. And I said to you the other day when I put out the garlic, and I said, we've got all this garlic growing, but that's probably about a week's worth of garlic for us.
It is, yeah. Well, and I mean, how long does it take to grow? I'm not sure on that.
Long crop on that one, apparently.
So we might have some by the end of the summer.
I don't know. I'm hoping by the end of spring, because they've been in since late October, mid to late October. So hopefully, I don't know though. I've never grown garlic, so it's all a bit of a mystery to me.
I know you can get some weird and wonderful varieties.
I think we'll just start with what we managed to buy in Wilko's to begin with. If we manage to do it better, then we can give it a try. But yeah, I think probably stick to what's easier to begin with.
It'd be nice to try and get some cabbages actually growing properly this year as well.
Yeah, those
But again, they were
cabbages
quite a long
strange.
turnover, so that wouldn't be quite as fruitful. It's the long game.
Yeah, I think that's the problem in some ways in with like planning for fruits and vegetables, is the fact that some of them have such long growing periods that because we've got a tiny space, it's really about planning rotations around.
Yes.
So like, if you've got a bigger space, you can dedicate like one bed to like parsnips, for example, that take like forever to grow.
And
Yet
then,
here, like that tiny space that I've got reserved for parsnips might only be free for a few months. And it's that case of like trying to organise around the timing, like how long does that take to grow? And where can I put it that I can leave it there to grow?
yeah, well, again, your planning's pretty good, to be honest. It's
Sounds like a job for a spreadsheet, doesn't it?
you and your spreadsheets.
Love them, absolutely love spreadsheets.
So, what sort of projects do we have in the pipeline for this coming year that will help us with our self-sufficiency?
Oh, that's a really good question. I was thinking, now this is completely, had no real planning to it whatsoever. I don't know how we're going to do it. I was thinking of some kind of watering system around the back of the beds. I don't know if it's going to be possible because, let's face it, we do get a lot of rain, but it also seems to be the 1 week where we manage to disappear off for a few days, where we have a drought and then it kills all the plants.
It kills, yeah.
So I don't know how possible it would be to get some kind of watering system in.
It's worth investigating. I think
Might have to have a look at some gadgets.
it's going to be. I think we could probably do that.
We've got the rainwater harvesting systems. We've got well, as much as we can. We've got the two water butts together, and we can put another one out the front
Collecting all the time.
because that's already got a
It's
pipe hanging off of it.
It's quite a good idea.
Although we do have to unhook that one regularly because it overflows.
Well, hopefully during the summer, if we have decent weather this year. I mean, we ended up with about a week's worth last year, didn't we, of pretty good weather.
Yeah. Yet the year before, it was like
Spring was our summer.
beautiful weather forever. It was lovely.
20, 30 odd degrees, I think.
Oh, it was lovely. I remember sitting in the garden at the end of April with like a glass of apple juice and a sandwich, obviously working very hard for whoever I was working for at the time. But sitting in the garden, just completely enjoying it. I was like, this is the way to go. I think it's then that I decided I never want to work in an office ever again. Ever.
I think a lot of people have gone that way now.
Oh, yeah. But that's another... Actually, thinking about that, that's another way that we're moving towards self-sufficiency. I mean, it's different with your job because it's a bit tricky to take your job home.
Yeah.
Mr. Manual Labour over there. But, my job that I can do from a laptop wherever I am, there's just no reason for me to go in the office. And there's also no reason for me to work for just one person or one company.
Yeah.
So it's that not being... Almost
it's
being
almost a sense of freedom.
Well, yeah, it is really freeing. It's also hard work because it also means that sometimes, I'll be working on a Sunday, which is not great fun, but at least I can budget in that time. But it's almost like in being self-sufficient or self-reliant, I'm not being reliant on one other person or one other company like I used to be when I worked for the charity that shall not be named. Having all your income coming from one place and then going through the mental health crisis that they put me in, it was a wake-up call in that fact of hang on a minute, I'm reliant on them for my income, which is the biggest thing, and which is obviously I can't do much without
we all
income.
need our bread and butter, don't we?
Well, exactly, but now, because I've got different clients and I work for different people, if one of my clients decides to disappear off, yeah, it's a nightmare, but it's not nearly as bad as if one charity decides they don't want me working for them anymore. So what projects are you thinking about doing this year, or would you like to give a go?
Well, as we've previously said, we need a little bit of a sort out in our tiny garden. I think going back to, I think it was our previous podcast, we need to get ourselves a bit of a hard standing. So whether that be reslabbing or
get rid of that deck,
concrete formers, I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go with that yet. But yes, so that's a summer sort of job in.
That's a big job.
It'll be interesting. It's going to be a learning curve, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be. Well, I've never done anything like that before. So, have you?
No. This is going to be my first time.
We really are going to be learning together.
Throwing
then,
ourselves
aren't
in
we?
the deep end. It's
oh my
all right.
Gosh. We'll be fine then. We'll be all right.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
We'll make it look pretty out there.
So you can have your sofa.
My outdoor sofa. We haven't got room for a hot tub. I'd love a hot tub. I mean, although the fact that they are completely not eco-friendly.
No, not at all.
They're not. But I really want one. We're not going
You
to
have a small pond. That might work well as a hot tub for you.
It's missing the hot bit. The hot tub. It's just cold. At the moment, it's actually really cold. I actually stood the fountain bit up the other day. It had fallen over. And my hand was literally in the pond water for about a minute trying to get this fountain thing out. It was so cold. I had to come in and put it on the radiator. So cold.
You'll get yourself chill blades.
Yeah, it was no.
I was always told that as a child.
I don't even think I know what they are. I was told the same thing. Like, don't put your feet in front of the fire because you'll get chilblains. And like, I don't actually know what they are, even as an adult. Do you think we're going to tell our kids that and still not know what it is?
Might as well carry on the tradition.
Might as well. Might as well. So, what about future projects?
Well,
what would you like to achieve in the future? That's a massive question.
That is a massive question. I'm not quite prepared for that. So, our future project for me, I'm not bloody sure.
Well, I would kind of like, in the future, no matter how far that is, I really want us to have a space with a little bit more land so that we can actually invest time and space into growing as many vegetables and fruits as we possibly can do. Hopefully we've improved our growing skills by then as well, because they leave a lot to be desired at the moment. And maybe get some animals like chickens and goats, those kind of things. That would be my absolute ideal.
And again, that's a big future project.
That is a big future project. That's what dreams are about, though.
It is. And I'm glad that we're able to aim for the same goal as well.
That does make it a bit easier. If you were aiming for a job in a city, we'd be on different paths.
I quite like that. I mean, that it will be a lot of work, and hopefully that does bring us more to our self-sufficient goal. It'll make us a little bit less reliant on external forces, and just be able to bring our own.
So something that's always also interested me about thinking about future projects is thinking about doing like bartering. I know that's everyone says doing bartering, but think about, you have chickens and eggs and I can trade them for something I've grown or something I've made, and I see this with loads of people that make things like the more artisan stuff, like the really nice breads or the fruit leather or greens powder, like we're really good at making, and using that as kind of a bartering tool. So that would be something that would be really nice. I don't even know how we'd start it. Probably need to start talking to our neighbours. Although you're good at that, I'm not.
Right, yeah.
You've got the gift of the gab, that's why.
I wouldn't say the gab, just friendly and like talking to everybody.
Ah, it's because you're a country bumpkin. No, it's good. That's what kind of lifestyle that I'm kind of hoping for. It'd be good.
It's an achievable goal.
Yes, it's definitely a goal. I hope it's achievable. We're certainly going to work towards it. But yeah.
So we've got to look at the advantages of producing our own food as well. It's going to be, we know what we're putting into it.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a big one.
And I'm kind of looking forward to knowing that it is just the water that we collect from our rain collection system.
And we can filter it and do rainwater harvesting and drink filtered water.
Now that's interesting. I'm not quite sure how
it's easy enough to do.
How
you
we
just
filter.
need a really big container, and then you send it through all the water filters.
Right.
So I think they call it a reverse osmosis one. I think it is, that takes out all of the nasties.
The particles.
There's a thing that lives in water. It's called cryptosporidium. It's got to be one of my favourite words in the English language. Cryptosporidium. What a word!
I think that you should try and get that into quite a few conversations.
It's like, hi, how are you? How's your cryptosporidium today? There's a few other things, obviously, in water that, like in dirty water, that you shouldn't drink. But when I was doing some work for the company that was doing water filters, I was like, that's a brilliant word. I really like that word. But either way, you don't put it in your water. But no, you send it through the filters. I think you can use like UV lamps to kill things. And then I think it's after that you use the reverse osmosis one to take it out.
Just to filter the rest of it through. And
need to do some actual reading about it, because it was a while ago I worked for the water filter place, so I didn't take that much notice of it. But now I'm thinking actually that would have been a really interesting thing to learn about.
Yeah, well, considering our wants and how we want to move forward with our little garden and potentially
the thing is, you can do
bigger.
it on a smaller scale with something like the Berkey that stands on the work surface, and then you just fill it up and then it filters and you drink it out of there. I mean, even our tiny little soya mini filters will do it, but it's going to be a bit of a pain filtering a whole bath full of soya mini.
Yeah, I don't like that. That's
Not going to be hot either. Cold bath.
No, cold baths I can't do.
Can't be dealing with cold baths. Cool. So, just to finish up, do you think that our goals for self-sufficiency and self-reliance are actually possible?
I think that we're going to have a little bit of a struggle with it to begin with. Mm-hmm. But on the main part, I think that it's an achievable goal, definitely. Mm-hmm. It's not something out of our capability and our reach. We're going to have to put a lot of hard work into it.
I think hard work is probably going to be our buzzword for the next
it's definitely
50 years. And beyond. The kids are going to have hard work as well, whatever kids we do have.
Well, we'll set them out at a young age.
Yeah, child labour will be fine, no worries. They'll be small enough to crawl under the vegetable things and pick all the beans at that age. It'd be great.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
See, using them well. So on that note of future plans for our children and using them in the garden, shall we wrap up for this week?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much for listening to this week's podcast. I've been Nikki.
And I'm Mr. G.
And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye for now.